The pressure begins to escalate when Taylor discovers that Sheila has formally again been manipulating the people around her. Despite her marriage to Deacon Sharp, Sheila has intimately been stalking the Forrester family and obsessing over her complicated connection to Steffi and her grandson. Taylor, being a psychiatrist and someone who has studied Sheila's jest for times, realizes that Sheila is far more dangerous than anyone presently believes. While utmost people suppose Sheila has mellowed slightly after marrying Cleric and running a eatery, Taylor sees the verity Sheila's preoccupation and covetousness have only grown stronger. One evening, Taylor makes a bold and parlous decision. Rather of advising the police or telling Steffi incontinently, she goes directly to Illinois Giardino to defy Sheila face to face. The eatery is nearly empty as closing time approaches. Sheila is alone in the kitchen area finishing paperwork when Taylor walks in, her expression calm but determined. Sheila is stupefied to see her rival standing there. Their history stretches back decades: backstabbings, pitfalls, cerebral warfare, and violence. The pressure in the room is nearly unsupportable as the two women gawk at each other across the dimly lit eatery. Taylor wastes no time. She tells Sheila she knows about the stalking, the manipulation, and the subtle attempts to worm her way back into the lives of the Forresters. She accuses Sheila of pretending to be reformed while intimately conniving vengeance against the family that has constantly rejected her. Sheila originally tries to laugh it off, claiming Taylor is exaggerating and that she's simply trying to live a normal life with Cleric. But Taylor refuses to back down. She warns Sheila that she has proved substantiation of her recent suspicious jest, and is prepared to take everything to the police if Sheila doesn't stay down from Steffi and the children permanently. For the first time in months, Sheila's precisely maintained countenance cracks. Her eyes darken with wrathfulness and fear. Taylor's words hang the fragile world she has erected with Deacon. However, Sheila could lose everything, including her freedom, if Taylor exposes her. The battle grows more violent with every passing second. Voices rise. Allegations fly back and forth. Taylor insists that Sheila is unable of change and will always be a peril to those around her. Sheila's despair suddenly erupts into violence. In a moment of pure rage, Sheila grabs a heavy essence object from the counter, a kitchen tool, and strikes Taylor. The blow is unforeseen and brutal. Taylor collapses to the bottom, unconscious. For a many intimidating seconds, the eatery is fully silent except for Sheila's ragged breathing. At first, she tells herself Taylor will wake up. But when she checks for a palpitation, she realizes the horrifying verity: Taylor Hayes is dead. Fear cataracts Sheila's mind. She knows that if the verity comes out, she'll spend the rest of her life in captivity. But Sheila Carter has survived numerous crimes before because of one thing: her capability to manipulate every situation. As the shock fades, a minatory idea begins forming in her mind. Sheila decides she'll not simply hide the body. She'll carry the entire crime scene and frame Cleric. Over the coming several hours, Sheila precisely constructs a horrifying deception. She knows Deacon is out meeting a supplier and won't return for a while. Using that time, she rearranges the eatery kitchen to make it look like a violent argument passed between Taylor and Deacon. She designedly knocks over chairpersons, breaks glass, and spreads objects around to pretend a struggle. Also, she places Taylor's body near the aft exit as though she tried to escape during the fight. But Sheila goes indeed further. She retrieves one of Deacon's jackets and smears it with blood. She also places a kitchen cutter with Deacon's fingerprints near, and point he used before that evening while preparing food. Sheila knows investigators will incontinently suspect him if the substantiation points in his direction. The final piece of her plan is the most nipping. Sheila sends a series of textbook dispatches from Taylor's phone to Steffi and others, inferring that Taylor is about to defy Cleric about Sheila's dangerous jest. The dispatches make it sound as though Taylor discovered commodity terrible involving Cleric and went to defy him alone. By the time Cleric returns to the eatery latterly that night, Sheila is formally pretending to be scarified. She claims she arrived back from an errand and discovered Taylor's body. Cleric is affrighted beyond words. The sight of Taylor lying breathless on the bottom leaves him shaking with unbelief. Within twinkles, the police arrive. Detective Baker begins probing the crime scene. Nearly incontinently, the substantiation seems to point toward Cleric. The offered struggle, the bloody jacket, the armament with his fingerprints. It all appears ruinous. Deacon insists he'd no way harm Taylor, but his demurrers feel weak compared to the physical substantiation girding him. News of Taylor's death spreads snappily through Los Angeles. Steffi collapses in grief when she hears the ruinous news. Thomas becomes consumed with rage. Both of them refuse to believe Deacon is able of murder, but the police case against him grows stronger with each passing hour. Meanwhile, Sheila plays the part of the grieving substantiation impeccably. She comforts Deacon, tells the police she cannot imagine him hurting anyone, and pretends to be devastated by Taylor's death. Outside, still, she feels only relief that her secret appears safe. But secrets in Los Angeles infrequently stay buried for long. Detective Baker soon begins noticing small inconsistencies in Sheila's story. Surveillance cameras near the eatery reveal a timeline that doesn't entirely match her claims. Also, a forensic analysis of the crime scene suggests the fatal blow may have passed earlier than Sheila originally reported. At the same time, Steffi begins her own disquisition. She cannot accept that her mama failed during an arbitrary fight. Her instincts tell her commodity about the situation feels wrong. As the weeks pass, cracks start forming in Sheila's precisely constructed taradiddle. Cleric remains behind bars awaiting trial, but new substantiation sluggishly emerges that could change everything. A neighbor near the eatery remembers seeing Sheila arguing with someone that night. Security footage from a near store captures Sheila entering the eatery shortly before the estimated time of death, contradicting her statement to the police. The walls begin closing in. Yet Sheila refuses to give up. She continues manipulating everyone around her, indeed visiting Cleric in jail and pretending to support him while intimately hoping he takes the blame permanently. But the verity has a way of surfacing. And when it does, the disclosure that Sheila Carter boggled Taylor Hayes and framed Cleric could enkindle one of the most explosive showdowns in the history of the bold and the beautiful. A battle that will leave families shattered, alliances destroyed, and Sheila's future hanging by a thread. The tragedy girding the death of Taylor Hayes continues to ripple through every corner of Los Angeles, leaving desolation, dubitation, and grief in its wake. In the days following the horrifying discovery at Illinois Giardino, the entire community connected to the bold and the beautiful struggles to understand how commodity so terrible could have happened. Musketeers gather in silence, families cleave to each other, and the formerly lively Forrester manse becomes a place filled with anguish and unbelief. For Steffi Forrester, the pain is nearly unsupportable. Losing her mama so suddenly feels like the world collapsing beneath her bases. She sits in the living room girdled by family photos, recollections of recesses, leaves, and quiet moments with Taylor that now feel incredibly distant. Every corner of the house reminds her of the woman who always offered guidance, warmth, and unconditional love. Steffi cannot stop asking the same haunting question: why? Her family. Thomas Forrester struggles with his own storm of feelings. Unlike Steffi, whose grief expresses itself through gashes and quiet heartache, Thomas feels rage burning inside him. He cannot accept the police conclusion that Deacon Sharp is responsible. Commodity about the situation feels wrong to him. Cleric has always been complicated, but murder? It doesn't add up. Still, the substantiation appears inviting. Detective Baker presents the case intimately: a violent battle inside the eatery, fingerprints on the armament, Deacon's jacket covered in blood, and Taylor's final dispatches suggesting she went there to defy him. From a legal viewpoint, the story seems clear. But Steffi refuses to accept it. Late one night, after the house has fallen silent, Cher reads the final textbook communication her mama apparently transferred before her death. Commodity about the wording feels strange, nearly too dramatic, too offered. Her instincts begin brooding that someone manipulated the situation. And inescapably, her studies drift toward the one person who has scarified their family for decades: Sheila Carter. Meanwhile, across city, Sheila is precisely maintaining her performance as the grieving substantiation. In public, she appears devastated by the tragedy. She tells everyone that Taylor's death has shaken her deeply and that she wishes she could have averted it. She comforts Deacon's musketeers, attends honorary gatherings, and indeed visits the Forrester home to offer condolences. Every word she speaks sounds sympathetic. Every tear appears sincere. But behind closed doors, Sheila's true thoughts remain far darker. She spends long nights replaying the confrontation in her mind, not with guilt, but with cold calculation. Her greatest fear is not remorse, it is discovery. She knows that if the truth surfaces, her life will be over. At the county jail, Deacon sits alone in his cell, struggling to comprehend how everything fell apart so quickly. Only days earlier, he believed he was building a stable life. His restaurant was thriving, his relationship with Sheila seemed calmer than ever, and for once he felt hopeful about the future. Now he faces murder charges. He replays that night again and again in his mind. He remembers leaving the restaurant for a meeting, returning later, and finding chaos. The overturned chairs, the broken glass, Taylor lying motionless on the floor, and Sheila, crying, shaking, telling him she had just arrived moments before. Something about the memory nags at him, but grief and confusion cloud his judgment. During one tense visit at the jail, Sheila sits across from him, clutching his hands through the metal barrier. She whispers words of encouragement, promising she will stand by him no matter what happens. Deacon looks into her eyes, searching for reassurance. Yet deep inside, an unsettling doubt begins to form. Back at the Forrester mansion, Steffi and Thomas begin conducting their own quiet investigation. They revisit the timeline of events and analyze every detail they can find. One crucial discovery raises their suspicions even more. A nearby security camera captured footage of someone entering the alley behind Illinois Giardino earlier than the police initially believed. The blurry figure resembles Sheila. When Steffi brings this information to Detective Baker, he initially dismisses it as circumstantial. But the possibility lingers in his mind. After all, Sheila Carter has a history that would make any investigator cautious. Baker orders a deeper forensic review of the crime scene. And that's when the first major crack appears in Sheila's story. A forensic technician discovers that the blood spatter pattern near Taylor's body suggests the fatal blow came from a different angle than originally assumed. If Deacon had been standing where investigators believed, the pattern would look different. This revelation changes everything. Baker begins quietly re-examining Sheila's statement. Meanwhile, tension grows between Steffi and Sheila during a memorial gathering for Taylor. The atmosphere is heavy with sadness as friends and family share memories of the beloved psychiatrist who dedicated her life to helping others. When Sheila approaches Steffi to offer condolences, the room grows noticeably tense. Steffi stares at her with barely contained anger. "You shouldn't even be here," she says coldly. Sheila responds softly, claiming she only came to pay her respects. But Steffi's eyes narrow. "My mother spent years warning us about you," she says. "Maybe we should have listened more carefully." The accusation hangs in the air. For a brief moment, Sheila's mask nearly slips. But she quickly regains control, insisting that Taylor's death has affected her deeply as well. The confrontation ends without violence, but the tension between them becomes impossible to ignore. In the weeks that follow, the investigation intensifies. Detective Baker uncovers inconsistencies in the timestamps of Sheila's phone activity. According to her statement, she was away from the restaurant when Taylor arrived. But digital records suggest otherwise. At the same time, Deacon finally begins questioning Sheila more directly. During another jail visit, he asks her to repeat exactly what happened that night. Her answers feel slightly different from before. Not dramatically different, but enough to raise suspicion. Deacon's voice grows tense. "Sheila, are you sure you told the police everything?" For the first time since the crime, genuine fear flashes across her face. Because she realizes something terrifying. The truth is getting closer. And if even one more piece of evidence surfaces, one witness, one camera angle, one forensic detail, the entire lie she built could collapse, leaving the world to discover the horrifying reality that Sheila Carter didn't just kill Taylor Hayes. She orchestrated an elaborate scheme to destroy Deacon's life in order to save her own. Steffi spends long nights replaying every conversation she had with her mother before the fatal confrontation. She remembers how calm Taylor seemed when she returned to Los Angeles. Her mother wasn't angry or reckless, she was determined and thoughtful. Taylor had always believed in confronting problems with honesty and intelligence, not violence. That memory alone makes it difficult for Steffi to believe the official narrative that a sudden argument with Deacon spiraled out of control. Meanwhile, Thomas Forrester channels his grief into relentless investigation. Unlike the police, Thomas knows the complicated emotional history between the people involved. He understands that Deacon may be impulsive, but murder, especially against someone like Taylor, doesn't match the man he has come to know. Thomas begins revisiting the timeline from the night of the tragedy, examining security camera footage and speaking with employees who worked near Illinois Giardino that evening. During one conversation with a delivery driver who regularly stops near the restaurant, Thomas hears something that sends chills down his spine. The driver claims he saw a woman arguing with someone in the alley behind the building that night. At first he assumed it was just another late-night disagreement between restaurant workers, but when Thomas shows him a photograph, the man immediately recognizes the woman. It was Sheila Carter. This revelation becomes the first solid piece of information suggesting that Sheila may have been present at the scene earlier than she claimed. Thomas immediately shares the discovery with Steffi, who feels a mix of vindication and dread. For years their family has warned everyone about Sheila's capacity for manipulation and violence, but somehow she always manages to escape consequences. Now the possibility that Sheila murdered their mother becomes terrifyingly real. At the same time, Deacon's situation grows increasingly desperate. Sitting inside the cold walls of his jail cell, he begins to analyze every detail of that night with growing clarity. Initially, the shock of discovering Taylor's body and the pressure of the police interrogation left him confused and emotionally overwhelmed. But as the days pass, small memories begin to return, details that didn't seem important before. One moment stands out. When he first arrived at the restaurant and saw Sheila standing near Taylor's body, he remembers noticing something strange. Sheila's hands were already stained with blood. At the time, she claimed she had tried to help Taylor and check her pulse, which seemed reasonable in the chaos of the moment. But now, the memory starts to feel different. What if she had already been there when the attack happened? During another tense jail visit, Deacon confronts Sheila with the question that has been haunting him. Were you really gone when Taylor came to the restaurant? For a split second, Sheila freezes. Her mind races as she calculates the safest response. She knows that showing panic could raise suspicion, but she also understands that Deacon is beginning to doubt her story. She slowly nods and insists she told the police everything. But the seed of doubt has already been planted. Outside the jail, the investigation led by Baker quietly takes a new direction. The forensic team's updated analysis reveals that the fatal blow to Taylor's head came from an object positioned at a height and angle inconsistent with Deacon's assumed position during the alleged fight. This detail may seem minor to the public, but to an experienced investigator, it suggests something significant. The attack may have come from someone standing closer to the kitchen counter.